Now, North Korea has confirmed reports that it's launched a ballistic missile. The test was supervised by the country's leader, Kim Jong-un. The medium to long-range missile was fired eastwards and came down in the Sea of Japan. It travelled more than 500 kilometres. The test is seen as a provocation and a violation of several UN resolutions. Well, the United States, Japan and South Korea have all called for an urgent meeting of the UN Security Council. Well, Will Danselow is in New York and has the latest for us on this. Will, good to speak to you. So what do we expect to come out of this UN meeting?
Yeah, so these are seen as consultations, so we can't expect any kind of resolution, anything like that. Of course, let's not forget that the last time the United Nations Security Council passed sanctions on North Korea, that was some 3 months in the works when it comes to bilateral relations, diplomatic channels between the US and China to really try and hammer a draft resolution through that would be acceptable to all sides. So these kind of sanctions take a long time to discuss. So we can really expect on Monday, if this meeting is planned to go ahead as expected, we can expect a great deal of condemnation from the United Nations Security Council and a great amount of concern. Of course, I mentioned those sanctions. The real purpose of them was to try and get North Korea to curb its nuclear ambitions, its missile testing ambitions as well. So certainly a great deal of head scratching, and some will wonder whether these sanctions are indeed having the effect that they're supposed to.
Absolutely. Well, it would seem not, Will, with these tests still going ahead now. When this meeting of the UN Security Council gets underway, it will be interesting to see how China reacts to this, because of course the Trump administration has got off to a bit of a rocky start with the Chinese.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, I mentioned that 3 months that it took between the US and China to try and come up with those sanctions late last year that were acceptable to all sides, because the message from China is there's real concern that if sanctions go too far, they'll have a destabilising effect on the country. So that's certainly a matter of concern. There's also the facts of the matter is that there's plenty of trade done between North Korea and China. Now, those sanctions late last year, they put a cap when it came to North Korea's coal export. Of course, China is a major buyer of that coal. So very interesting to see where, in fact, the United Nations can go there. Of course, we've seen Donald Trump just days ago somewhat softening his questioning and line of attacks and issues when it came to regarding that one China policy. So very interesting to see how he responds when it comes to bilateral ties with China. Of course, Donald Trump in the past has been incredibly scathing of China, stating that they haven't done enough to curb North Korea. So considering we've seen a somewhat softening stance recently, very interesting to see whether he'll resume that kind of line of friendly rhetoric even after these missile tests.
And Will, then, finally, what have the Trump administration actually said specifically about this missile test? And it's interesting to kind of play this off with what they said about the Iranian missile test a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Many are looking at these tests, and many are looking at the comments coming from Donald Trump himself. So on a very soft tone, of course, speaking alongside Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Florida on Sunday, and rather soft. Many were expecting some kind of a fiery rhetoric, attacks on Twitter even. We haven't seen that. A rather calm, calculated, measured response. Of course, the Trump administration said they've been expecting these kind of missile tests. They say that all options are on the table. They say they'll stand with their allies in the region. So we can expect them to discuss potential implications. We could see further sanctions in the future from the United States. We could see more military engagement when it comes to military drills with allies in the region. We could see a hastening of the THAAD missile radar system in South Korea. So plenty of options at Donald Trump's disposal. Very interesting to see which, if any, of those options he'll take.
Absolutely. OK, we wait and see what happens. Will, for now, thank you.